The Travelers, a mysterious and foreign force in Teyvat, and looking to be one of the most powerful beings to ever walk its lands. How do these two travelers from the stars carry so much potential? How do their powers rival or even surpass that of the gods? Well, I don't know. First, I want to say thank you for providing your insights and ideas on the previous video, which covered the Archon's powers. It was a very interesting read, and I'm sorry if I wasn't able to comment on all of your comments. Rest assured though that I read all the interesting takes on how the Archon's powers might work. As with my last video though, this one as well won't really give any definitive conclusions by the end. Instead, I will just present the facts and ideas that we know about the topic, and a small theory by the end. Like the last video, I hope you would all once again provide your own perspectives and insights about the topic in the comments down below. So for this topic, we're going to be talking about the Travelers, more specifically their powers and what it might really be. I'm sure the most common ideas would revolve around them being able to absorb the elements through the Archon statues, but we'll try to get a little deeper than that. So like before, let's go through some common bits of information that may be true or not. The Travelers absorb the elements of the region they're in through the statues of the Seven. How do they absorb the elements through the statues though? Well, there are a lot of theories about that. They could be taking it from the elemental ley lines, or they could even be taking it from the Archons directly. We at least know though that it isn't an invasive act, as the Travelers even apologized to Venti about taking the power of Anemo, and Venti didn't mind at all. The same could be said for Zhongli and A. Another theory is that the statues are fonts of power that take directly from the elemental ley lines, and it is through those ley lines that the Travelers are able to siphon the elements. The theory even states that the power of the Archons are derived from the ley lines, which is why the Traveler often have supposedly weaker versions of the Archon's powers. For example, Traveler's Anemo elemental skill is a weaker version of Venti's elemental burst. The same for Zhongli's burst and Geo Traveler's skill. How true this is though, well, that's up to you to decide. When absorbing the elements, it also changes the light of the element of the Traveler's clothes, which indicates which element he or she is on. They also have the capability of simply removing the element from themselves, as seen with the tournament for the Masterless Vision when we were trying to gain passage to the Alcor. Now gameplay wise, we have to go towards a statue in order to change the elements, but from a lore perspective, it seems like the Traveler doesn't need to do this, and instead the Traveler has all the elements that they previously acquired basically inside them at every moment. Meaning in lore, the Traveler is able to switch between elements at will. This is most evident during the battle with Tartaglia, where the Traveler had to use both Geo and Anemo at the same time. Now as to how much power they can actually draw out from the elements is something we aren't quite sure of, as mostly when we see the Traveler fight, they only use their blade. And when they do use an elemental ability, it's usually just one element. And the only time we ever see them using two elements, as mentioned, was when they fought with Tartaglia. Even when they fought with the Raiden Shogun, they only used Electro. So it could be that the Travelers can only use their powers in a pinch, or maybe the Travelers still need to grow their power in order to use multiple elements simultaneously. We do know, however, that the Traveler is well aware of how powerful they actually are, because most of the dialogue that we get from the Traveler is that they are actually very cocky. So maybe they're actually very aware about how much power they can actually draw out from the elements, showing that their level of confidence is backed by their ability to be able to use multiple elements, and that they aren't afraid because they know how powerful they actually are. Though sometimes they do get humbled, such as when they first faced the Raiden Shogun, and actually when the Raiden Shogun killed Senyora. Now aside from their elemental powers, the Travelers also have really good blade work, as they are very much capable of defending themselves without the use of their elemental power, to the point where they can match against enemies such as the Raiden Shogun. In fact, the masters and students of the Iwakura blade art were very much surprised on how good the Traveler's sword art was, to the point they were confused as to who taught the traveler their sword art because of how much better it was than the Iwakura blade art. Now knowing this, we could easily ascertain that the travelers have the ability to absorb the elements and use it as they see fit. Not only that, but they also have the martial prowess in order to become a very powerful swordsman even without their elemental capabilities. But there's actually far more that the travelers are capable of wielding. We've seen them absorb not only the elements, but other powers as well. In my old video about Genshin's magecraft, I mentioned that Genshin runs on a soft magic system, which allows all sorts of magic shenanigans to take place, and none more makes this evident as the traveler's ability to take on the burden and powers of others, in order to become even more powerful for a moment. Basically their version of the power of friendship. We first see this in Liyue, where the travelers take on the power of the Adepti to turn the Jade Chamber into a makeshift Zhongli ult. Now this was said to be an adeptal art, and that not many can withstand to the adeptal energy, but the traveler was able to adapt and was able to do so quite easily. And due to that, the traveler received different kinds of boosts based on whose adeptal energy was given. A power boost was from Madame Ping, the defense boost was from Ganyu, and a speed boost was from Xiao. Question is though, is this part of the traveler's ability to absorb power, or is it solely due to the traveler's strength and potential that he could easily adapt to adeptal energy? In fact, after the fight, they overloaded the traveler with adeptal energy in order to bring down the Jade Chamber on top of Osael. However, unlike elemental energy, this adeptal energy dispersed afterwards, meaning the adeptal energy didn't last long or was expended immediately. We see this ability once more in Inazuma, and it's a bit far weirder in Inazuma too. This happens during the fight with A, and the reason why this is weirder than that of Liyue is because this one was kind of unprompted. In the battle with A, we at most were able to hold our ground against her, but couldn't get the edge in battle. However, with the help of Yae Miko, who tells the traveler that the vision users have entrusted their ambition to the traveler somehow, though this never really happens aside from meeting 3 vision users whose visions had been taken, it was never established that we were able to take the ambition of all the vision users who lost their vision. In addition to that, it's not like the people of Inazuma know that we were fighting A in the plane of Euthymia at that time. So, is this a power of the traveler? Are they able to forcibly take the ambition and power of a separated vision? Or maybe since the visions all have one ambition at that moment, which was to abolish the vision hunt decree, did the traveler match his ambition in order to take in the power? It's also well established that a vision will go dark if the vision wielder dies, which means all the visions that showed up during the cutscene may have been people that are alive. It's possible that dead visions work too, since Kazuha's friend's vision lit up, but we'll say for now that most of the vision's masters were alive. Did they have a feeling that their vision was lighting up or something? Did they know that the traveler needed help, like Goku charging a spirit bomb? Or do the visions have their own will? Or maybe is the traveler forcibly taking on their powers? I don't know. What we know for sure though is that the travelers are great conductors of energy. So thus far, we know that they're able to take on the elements through the Archon statues and possibly the ley lines. They're able to adapt easily to adeptal energy, and they can either match the ambitions of masterless visions or they can forcibly take the powers of masterless visions, but that's not even the end of the traveler's vast amount of power. They still have a few more up their sleeve. So in the opening cutscene at the start of the game, we see that the travelers have their own power that is somewhat unique to them. This is a power outside the elements of Teyvat. Unfortunately, the main character lost this power when he awoke in Teyvat, but his or her sibling was able to retain the power or simply got another one. The sibling used the power of the Abyss during the time we first met him or her, during the Archon quest with Dainsleif. Although it does look like it's their original power too, so I'm not entirely sure if it's borrowed power from the Abyss or the sibling kept their original powers and was somehow corrupted by the Abyss, or if it's really just their original power. They were able to use the powers of the Abyss and was even able to use an Abyss portal. As for our main character, one of the most unique things he was able to do, aside from being able to wield multiple elements, is the power to purify the Abyss. He did this with Dvalin's Tears, a power that not even Venti could do, a power that may be derived from the MC's original powers. That said, our main character is also getting their powers back slowly. We haven't seen much of it yet, but our first indication of their original power coming back is during the fight with Tartaglia, where the traveler mentions that they are getting stronger, though there were many options available as to why, so it's only one possibility. That said though, one thing that has always bothered me is that there is an assumption that the travelers have identical powers, since both are technically playable with the same movesets. So it is a fair assumption to make. So for my own thoughts, a small theory. If you would humor me for a bit, what if the travelers don't have identical powers? What if the sibling does have the power of the Abyss and our MC has the opposite power, be that light or celestial power? We've seen the MC be able to purify Abyss poisons that affected Durin. What if this power that was used was part of their affinity to the light? The MC having this unique power allows them to purify weak Abyss poisons. However, since MC doesn't have all of his powers back yet, when MC got in contact with strong darkness, which may be incompatible with the light, during the Inazuma story quest where we met Scaramouche, it almost feels as if he was poisoned in a way, despite this darkness not affecting Paimon, Scaramouche, or even Yae Miko. Though of course, the possibility that it was also due to his emotions like Scaramouche said, may be true. But it seemed to me at the time, Scaramouche wanted the traveler to go berserk in some way, telling him to embrace the anger. That's something you tell someone so that they would fight you. But instead, the traveler fell unconscious as if poisoned, which may not have been the effect Scaramouche intended. Scaramouche has been wanting to fight the traveler since 1.1, so it might be reasonable to think that he wanted to fight the traveler there too. But if the MC has this power of light, then why was he able to use the elements that we've encountered? Well, light can be refracted in order to create different colors, which can be tied back to the elements, which is then why our traveler is able to use all the elements, while our sibling can use the Abyss. The Abyss may be our sibling's actual power and not a borrowed or inherited one from the Abyss itself, which may be also why the MC wasn't able to interact with the Abyss portal while our sibling could. In fact, the name Aether and Lumine are often translated as sky and light, but the character used for Aether in other languages, specifically Chinese and Japanese, can be read in a number of ways. The character specifically is based off a concept in Buddhism called Shunyata, which, if you use the elements of Buddhism Godai philosophy, it can also mean void, which is the highest element. So if you take into account their names, it can literally translate into void and light. Now you may think that it seems random to throw that in there, and perhaps you may be right. But the thing about Godai philosophy is that it stems from the basic elements, which is also the same concept as alchemy, which in part plays a huge role with the events of Genshin Impact from the time the travelers arrived in Teyvat. Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. Who's to say? The travelers have a vast array of abilities that are complicated as heck and are not even fully divulged to us yet. Which is to say, I don't really know how their powers work. But what do you guys think? How do you think the travelers' powers work? Do you think they have similar powers? Do you think they have anything to do with the light and the dark? Are they just reincarnations of the Avatar? Are they the last light and dark benders? Let me know in the comments down below. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Merry Christmas to everyone, and see you next video.